Mike Mason wants you to know he is a man of science. The Republican candidate for State House District 61 worked as an engineer for 3 decades before real estate took him to the Western Slope. Mason now owns a small farm with his wife where they produce several crops, including hemp. Land use and water rights are high on his priority list as a candidate, and he firmly believes government subsidies and interference should disappear. Mason's sole opponent in the election is Democrat Julie McCluskie of Summit. Before the election, Krystal 93 spoke with Mason over the phone to learn more about his platform, his plan for education reform, his controversial stance on climate change, and why more taxpayer money is not the solution for Colorado's challenges. Phil Lindeman, Krystal 93 News Director, on the phone today with Mike Mason. He's your Republican candidate for State House District 61. Mike, thanks for being on the phone with me today. Wanted to make sure I talked with you because I caught a little bit of you at the forum in Frisco, but didn't have a chance to really follow up. And I remember that there was a little bit of controversy with what you mentioned about climate change and global warming.
I have a position on global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, And, I don't argue with IPCC or any of the people that are actually doing the data. It's just what the data says is for the last 40 years, we've had a 0.5 degree C increase in temperature. To me, if the human race can't take that, it's like the temperature today, for example, is 80 degrees, would have been without man here. With man here, it's going to be 80 and 3/4 degrees. And excuse me, but I just don't find that as a crisis situation. Then, it even goes deeper than that because I looked at IPCC data. They show the Earth generally being wetter. Some places desiccation, but mainly the United States is shown as being wetter, slightly warmer, with more CO2. Let me translate that for you. More CO2, plants are very sensitive to that. They grow much faster. They're not so sensitive to a 0.5 or 3/4 degree. And water, the same thing. See, that's a description of a warmer, wetter, greener Earth. And I would make an argument that that's probably a better situation. And that's one that I don't think has been really looked at. So the whole purpose for that, Phil, is the net result of that is I'm very much in favor of all of the above for energy, fossil fuels, solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, whatever makes sense to the power companies, and what can be competitive is fine with me. The only thing I'll say is some of the green people would like to see us all in electric cars. The net consequence of that is that everybody, millions of people, plugging in their electric cars at night so they're charged the next morning for them to go to work. The sun doesn't shine at night, Phil, and the wind becomes becalmed. So, there's a basic flaw in renewable energy, and that the demand, if the climate change people got their way, the demand would be when renewables are not generating power. Hydro would generate power, and I'm all in favor of that. But that's just that's a consideration. It's called dispatchable energy for the utility companies. Mm-hmm. They have to have power available whether the sun's shining or the wind's blowing. So they have to have essentially a fossil fuel or a hydro backup to make renewables work. Well, listen, I've got there was that. Then you want to know something about my background?
Yeah. I was curious as well about your background and how you got into elected office, because I know that you've held elected office before, but never at the state level.
Yeah. Well, I'm a veteran. I have a degree in physics and 30 years as an engineer. So, and then I did 2 subdivisions, one over in the Front Range and one here on this side. And you have to ask, what does that have to do with physics? You might ask that, might you not?
Well, I'm interested how you went from physics and 3 decades as an engineer to real estate.
Well, it was. I didn't make I've done two, so I'm not a professional, and that's probably all I'm ever going to do. And the reason I did one over in the Front Ranges, 54 homes, it was a parade of home site. You know, it generated $1.6 million and allowed me to move to the this side of the states. And I guess I'm capable enough to do that. In other words, I did that not because I found physics non-satisfying. I found it very satisfying. It's just that it didn't pay as much as doing a subdivision, and I felt like I was capable of doing that. I could certainly handle it. So that's the reason for that. We now have a 300-acre farm here where we raise wine grapes, alfalfa, hay, and hemp. This is our first year for hemp. You know, so and my wife has horses, dogs, cats, chickens, and we very much like living on a farm. You know, it kind of was both of our dreams.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the background. Let's see, what else did you want to know?
Great. Is the farm, is it a production farm? Is it an industrial farm, or is it private?
It's a private farm.
Okay.
We live on it, and I mean, the wine grapes don't make much. You know, maybe a good year, $6,000, something like that. You know, the hemp seems to be, I will see, we haven't sold anything yet, but it seems to be a lot more profitable as far as an income. And alfalfa is, well, we got 300 acres, you got to do something with it. So that's, you know, we grow that and have a hay barn full of hay and alfalfa, which feeds the horses, and
okay.
we also sell, you know.
Okay.
For the farm, you know, so I think I would be, I'd be below the sub-poverty level if I had to depend on the farm for income. To put it that way. It's not our primary source of income. It's our, you know, we did that when we were both. My wife is a mechanical engineer with an MBA, and you know, I've got a physics degree, and I was working for a master's in EE at University of California when my company who sent me there started to fail, and I had to come back before I completed it. But I would have completed it if they had not been failing. It was Digital Equipment Corporation.
Okay, so. Gotcha. Great. Yeah, I really just had a couple questions off of what we talked about. So first of all, like you said, one of your big points is that there's too much spending, too much taxing, too much government influence on a lot of programs. What are some programs that you have found are just getting too much money, or that are just eating up too much of the state budget?
Okay, let's look at the state budget. What do you imagine the biggest single item in terms of expenditures is for the state budget?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it yet this year.
Pardon?
I haven't looked at it yet this year, so I'm really not sure. I would imagine something in the terms of probably social programs, or perhaps it could be infrastructure.
Nope. You want to try some more? Okay, I won't put you through that, so I'll tell you. 52.8% of the state budget and over half of local budget goes to education. The biggest expenditure, more than transportation, more than you know, the rest of the state put together, is education. Okay?
Okay.
So what I want to do about that? Oh, by the way, the United States in general spends the most on education of any of the industrialized countries in the world. And by the way, what are our results? You know? Confess ignorance, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear what you see in the results. Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
So we're 38th in math, 24th in science and reading, okay? Now, if I were to tell you that about anything else, you'd say monopoly, and you'd be absolutely right. What more than money, what education needs is a big, swift kick in the butt. Okay, I mean, it's not that the people, the teachers, administrators, etc., don't know what to do. It's that, you know, if you don't have a competitive situation, you kind of get comfortable in your comfort zone, and you don't get out of it. If somebody's threatening you, then you might be more innovative, and that's where we've gotten. So I strongly two things. I believe in parental choice. I believe parents have the best interest of their kids at heart. And I want to empower them. So that would be, allowing them to go, if they want to, they can go to public schools. That's great. Send their kids to public schools or private schools or religious schools or homeschooling or any of the tremendous opportunities that exist because of technology, like remote learning and online courses and, the online tutors. There's so many things that are out there. This gets to a central point, Phil. Okay, I, as a legislator, with my background, do not know everything. I have to tell you that. Okay, are you surprised?
Hardly anybody can know everything.
You got it. So what do you got in government? You got some people that know something, but they don't know a hell of a lot of something else that somebody spent their whole life doing. So government by itself, this is just my conclusion, is a bunch of amateurs trying to legislate and control a bunch of people who know what they're doing. So to me, on my business card, it says the government that governs best is the one that governs least. And I really mean that. In other words, government, if there's things that have to be done by government, like roads, then you have to do that. But wherever possible, let the private sector handle it. It handles it a hell of a lot more efficiently and better, just better.
Okay.
So that's I give that. You may not accept that as a philosophy, but that's certainly my philosophy.
Okay.
So I want when I go to Denver, as a state legislator, I will always ask before I spend a dime on education or anything else, is there another way? Tell me what you've done to be efficient. Tell me what you're doing to improve at the same time the service you render, whether it's that or even if it's transportation. Even the state has to do that. They can still have the option of subcontracting. There's lots of other ways. And, geez, I just said I don't know everything. And I don't know everything about roads. I don't know everything about education. Lots of things I don't know things about. So it's going to be a challenge to try to figure out how, I guess what you have to do. Well, for example, I talked to the realtors in Summit County, and one of the issues they wanted particularly was they wanted a state-certified building inspector. Okay, so how do we? I'm all for that. Great. Why did they want it? Because they'd like to be able to, when they go and sell a house, they'd like to say this house was inspected by a state-certified building inspector, and it doesn't have flaws with the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, the construction, and stuff like that. You can be assured because the state-certified building inspectors said that. Okay, well, what am I going to do as a legislator? I'm going to write up something, or I'm going to design the test for that? No, I'll go to the Housing and Building Association, ask for them to do that, ask for them to make a list of requirements in terms of the background of building inspectors, and then if I'm really satisfied that what they do would lead to somebody who's really competent, that the state could not be embarrassed, because they say it's good, and then the buyer finds it's not, then fine. I told them, and I will vote, for that type of program. They'd like to have that. So hopefully, Phil, I'm giving you kind of a flavor of how I would work.
Yeah, absolutely.
My very first response would not be to spend money.
Okay.
And that's true of education. It's also true of healthcare. Because who's the number one, by far, the number one spender of money on healthcare, of government per capita health care in the world?
I'd imagine U.S. is right up there.
Yes, it's $10,000 per capita. Switzerland's next at $2,000, and Germany's at $6,500. And in Germany, they have single payer, health care for everybody. And if we had, for example, and I'm not for single payer, because if government gets in there and health care, and what they tend to do is say, let's get rid of the expensive procedures, and stuff like that. And so healthcare generally goes down, but Germany seems to have managed to not do that. But if we had that for $6,500, we would return to the Treasury $600 billion a year, and every man, woman, and child in this country would be able to go see a doctor and a hospital, have an operation, whatever, at no cost. Okay? So, I mean, that's the type of thing. Some other people would say, well, we spend $1.74 trillion on health care. We need to spend another $1.7 trillion to get single payer. No, we need to go look at the healthcare system and see why we're particularly not getting value for what we're putting into it. And I'm just, and by the way, that's a federal issue. It's not a state issue. I know that, but a lot of times, particularly my opponent would say she wants to do something at the state level. To her, I say, why don't you go to Washington? If you can figure out how to do it at the state level, why don't you go to Washington and tell them how to do it? Because they obviously don't know how to do it, and they need you, so to speak. I'm not being critical, but we've had that discussion.
Yes, definitely.
Julie and I have, so.
And when I've talked with healthcare experts, one thing that they say is that the change needs to begin at the state level. A lot of experts believe that if the federal system is going to work, they're going to want the states to figure it out first. So I definitely see where you're coming from, because experts agree on that same thing. It's just a matter of will the federal government pay attention?
But I mean, if the states figure it out, what that means is you're going to have 51 different solutions, because Colorado will not be the same as Montana or New York or California or Texas or whatever, So, and that's the crucible of the United States. You have the potential of 51 experiments going on simultaneously. Hopefully, whichever one's the best winds up ultimately being adopted by the other states. So I understand that, but, I mean, it's a huge, I just said, look, the problem here, Phil, is that if you expand taxes, then there's a direct correlation to how much tax you tax people and how much the economy grows. And if you take enough away, the economy doesn't grow. It actually collapses, as in Venezuela. A very rich country has 2 million people fleeing its borders because they're starving to death. So that's the problem. You can't just unrestrictedly and mind-numbingly just go and throw money at stuff, because what you'll do is destroy the economy, and you'll make everybody poor instead of everybody wealthy. And I certainly, there's a lot more, it's just a lot more satisfying if people are able to handle their lives, make their own decisions, not be taken care of by government. Okay.
Great. So when it does come to taxing and funding programs, then what are programs that you believe are worthy of taxes and worthy of government funding?
No, I'm not going to say worthy. I'm going to say that governments must do.
Okay.
Obviously, you're not going to have a private company maintaining I-70. So infrastructure, roads, stuff like that is something that needs to be done. I think this country, it's not in the Constitution, but I think this country has made the decision that there will be education through the 12th grade, free education through the 12th grade. I just don't think it should be necessarily the public schools. I would love to see competition, and I'd like to see that, right now Colorado has the average is $11,000 per student, and it varies, depending on what the cost of it. Like Paonia is a lot cheaper to live in than Breckenridge is, for example. So there's a formula that the Department of Education uses to change it. It's not 11,000 for everybody.
Yeah, here in Summit it's about 8,500, 8,900. Here in Summit County it's about 8,900, I believe, somewhere in the $8,000 range.
Yeah, and the reason for that is not because it's cheaper to live in Summit County than someplace else, but Summit County High School has 3,500 kids.
Yeah.
The larger the school, the less the administrative overhead is, and so the formula that the state uses is dependent on it's on the cost of living and also on the size of the school. Paonia is, I think there's 7,700. They only have 300 kids, but the cost of living is very low. So that's what. But I can't. Phil, I can't do it all. I have to just say, let's just say it's 11,000 for the heck of it, because that's what the average is throughout the state. So I would like the parents to have access to that for valid educational accredited schools, expenditures. Right now, of course, parents can homeschool all they want, or they can go to a private school, but they have to do it. If you got 4 kids, then you have to fund that out of your funding. I mean, in other words, you don't get the per pupil expenditure available to you. So let's see. So that's what I'm trying to say is, we said, what does government have to do? It has to do the roads. We've said that we want kids educated to the 12th grade. Yes, I agree with that. I just don't. I think we have to do something, because I'm not just going to give you an example here. So guess we're at 11,000 on average. The territory or whatever that's the most is Washington, D.C. It's $25,000 per student.
Okay.
So guess where Washington and Colorado is 14th in terms by Pew Research and in terms of the quality of education we provide. So guess what Washington, D.C. is?
Where are they sitting at?
Pardon?
Where are they sitting at?
Yeah. Out of the 51 states plus Washington, D.C., that'd be 52. Where are they?
I'm not sure. They get the most money.
Try right at the bottom, 48. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you say, well, that's Washington, D.C. How about New York? New York spends $23,000 per student, and they are 24th. They're behind Colorado. How about Utah? That's the one that has the least amount per student, is $7,000, and they're 17th. They're better than New York. So the point I want to make here, Phil, is that throwing money at education doesn't, you assume that if you spend more for education, you get better education. That is an incorrect assumption. You may just feed the bureaucracy, is all you would do. So I don't, how can I put that? Or maybe you just get it. I hope you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one question then is, when it comes to solving education, like you said, you believe that some kind of free market solution is best, giving parents and children the option to choose. And then what about the cost?
Have you noticed? Pardon? Go ahead.
What about the cost of that, though? Because I think of the private schools I know up here in the mountains, tuition at those private schools is $20,000 or more per student per year. I don't know too many parents around here that can afford that option. So public school becomes the option because it is free. And like you said, education seems as though it's a necessary right here in the U.S.
But you're looking at as you pointed out, Summit County gets less than 11,000, even though the cost of living is higher, because they have a school with 3,500 kids in it. Okay, but there's efficiencies of scale even in a monopoly. So what happens if I'm just saying, here, tell the parents they have the option, okay? And they could spend it on that $20,000 school, but I would tell you if there's a lot more demand for education, it wouldn't be a $20,000 school because competition would drive the price down and drive performance up. But the other deal is that, if initially you can't afford that, then send your kid to public school. I'm not preventing you from doing that. I'm just saying a few people would do that. That would start the ball rolling, and in every other industry there is out there, Phil, what happens with competition is the price comes down and the quality goes up. I'm talking to you on a couple $100 cell phone that has more capacity than IBM's original was a 7090, whatever it was, that took rooms full of to do and cost millions of dollars. It's like competition is that significant, and I know I just feel in my gut that that's what you need to do in education. The other alternative, if we doubled the per pupil expenditure in Colorado, guess what? There wouldn't be any money to pay my outrageous salary as a legislator, or anybody else, or do the roads, or the other thing you'd have to do is double taxes in the state. So I'm sorry, we're at a point where you have to be a little more clever than that. You can't just simply say everybody wants money for health care, they want money for education, and I point that out. It's not that I'm so much for education, but it's half the dang budget. So it's time that you actually look at it and do something rather more than knee-jerk.
Okay, great. And do you think that's a solution that could work for the entire state, or is that one that's probably going to work best for Western Slope and rural schools? Do you think that solution could work for?
I believe in competition for everybody. Not only the entire state, the whole damn country. Okay. That's and I've talked with teachers. They know these solutions. In Delta County, the district has over 50 what's called digital learning courses, that they could put out there. In other words, if you go to a small school and you want to take a physics class and it's not offered, it's available over the net. You want to take geography, it's not offered, it's available over the net. So you start looking at that, and again, I don't want to be, I'm not going to be the designer of the future school of the country, but maybe if you have a lot of courses, what you could have is not a teacher, but just a hall monitor literally in the classroom to maintain order. And that hall monitor might cost a whole lot less than a teacher. And by the way, average teacher salaries are about, at least according to NEA data, are like $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And that's for 9 months. That comes out to $36 an hour.
Public school teachers in Colorado, really? I've heard different numbers for Colorado starting pay, at least.
Well, go look up NEA. You can Google NEA data, or that's the National Education Association data, and they have it for all of the states and for Colorado. That's my source, and the thing is that Colorado has they have a formula, obviously, that changes the amount that school districts get, but certainly the pay has to be based on the cost of living. The teachers have got to be paid more in Summit County than they are in Delta County, because Summit County is a hell of a lot more expensive place to live than Delta County is, So I haven't really looked at what the formula for the state is, but if they don't do that, then I have to wonder what the heck they're doing, So
Yeah, definitely. And final question that I think I had for you, final big question is, do you think that there is support at the House, partisan and bipartisan support for some of these ideas that you have for, for education as a free market enterprise and getting rid of some of the government spending on healthcare? Do you think that others would support?
Yeah, well, I know Bob Rankin, who's I not only know him, he knows me too pretty well, and I've had discussions with him. I think he's chairman of the Education Committee. He knows these things. The question really is one of politics. If I come along and say I want to allow competition with the public schools, then the public schools will, and I know this to be the fact because they did it with me, they will actually campaign against you. Okay? So politics is, sometimes it's like you can't say something for fear you're going to offend a group that's going to, cost you votes or something. What I'm trying to say, Bob, is politics is corrupted sometimes. I know this is a shock to you, but yeah. I'm sure you'll get over it. So I think there is sub rosa support for doing something about education and healthcare. Healthcare is a big issue in the ski areas and also in Lake County. Well, healthcare is a big issue everywhere. Not just in Colorado, not just in HD 61, but everywhere. And I think we've covered that. I think that's really more of a federal issue. The per capita is a federal number, and it needs to be solved. You pointed out that the states. What state offers free health care or single payer health care? What do you know of a single state that does that? Well, it's not that they don't want to do it, but they could afford to do that. The problem is that I'm a cancer survivor. Mm-hmm. I had stage 4 renal cell cancer, and I know some of those cancer. One of those cancer medications was $25,000 an injection, and I got it twice a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it saved my life. But I mean. The problem is, we literally, there's some people have said we can't afford $33 trillion. We can't. Germany doesn't do that. They do it for, half of what we're doing. We want to double the 1.74 trillion. Germany's doing it for half of the 1.74 trillion, scale to their country, of course. So I think that, certainly for healthcare, we need to study their system, and believe me, I'm saying that knowing that the downside of government healthcare is that the government will try to then exclude expensive procedures, and when they do that, they'll also make it illegal so that even if you could afford the expensive procedure, it won't be available in country. So. I mean, that's the other side of it. I wish we could find a way that healthcare is affordable for everybody, but it doesn't it doesn't stop innovation. And listen, what I'm trying to, if I'm stumbling here, if that seems the way what I'm doing, Phil, it's because I don't know the solution to that. And then not only that, I would say lots of people don't know the solution, but we better damn well figure it out pretty fast, so.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, one of the interesting wrinkles that I've always thought about, when the talk about universal health care comes up is that a lot of countries with universal health care, they're much smaller than the U.S. with a smaller population to serve, and their health care system has not been free market for a very long time. The U.S. healthcare system has been free market for a very, very long time. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles is that universal health care requires the absolution of a free market system for the most part. You can't have large corporations running the show when the government's paying for it because they'll just
I know we have, one of the things that's said is we have a patent deal. So, a company comes out with a new drug, they have a monopoly position on the drug for 17 years.
Yeah.
And what happens is we have drugs that are not available other places because of that. That's the upside of it. The downside is the damn things if the reason that it was called Opdivo was that expensive is because there are very few people that have renal cell carcinoma or the other condition that treats as lung cancer. So they got to recover their $200 million double-blind, placebo-controlled, FDA test and all the other stuff that we require here over a very small group of people. So that's in their defense. But the fact of the matter is that that's why our healthcare system is so damned expensive. And we just have to look at that and decide if that's really worthwhile, if there's something else. Listen, my mind's working on it, Bill.
Yeah.
But if I can help some way, that I will. I feel for that. By God, I've been a benefactor of I paid into Medicare, and fortunately I got Medigap. So the co-pays on that stuff was $7,000.
Yeah, it's still pretty hefty.
My part of it, like 20%, was $7,000. So.
Okay.
That's anyway. I want you to know I feel for healthcare and the people should have that available. I don't know. It's just something that's going to take a lot of. I hope that other people are really trying to figure this out. They got to know how important it is to the American people and certainly to us. And I can't. I guess the state cannot afford to do universal health care. Colorado cannot afford to do that. I'm sorry. It's not that we shouldn't do it. It's not that it's not needed. It's, sometimes it's just you don't have the funds to do it. Or if you do, what you do is drive the economy into a rat hole that you can never get out of. Okay? That's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, that's the problem. There's a need, and I'm not arguing at all that there isn't a need. There definitely is a need, So, but I can tell you if you don't get it in my voice, I can tell you I'm extremely concerned about that,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I will do everything I know how to do to try to provide something that we can reasonably afford to do. For people. I mean, we still, one thing we do, for example, let me give you an example. If you're hurt, you break an arm or something like that, you can go to any emergency room, and if you can't afford that, you'll get treated. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if you can't afford it, guess who pays for it?
Your friends and neighbors. Taxpayers.
No.
The hospital.
Wrong. The hospital does. And in a rural community, there's lots of people that can't afford it. Guess what happens when the hospital can't afford to pay their bills? It would go out of business. Let me tell you, if I'm elected, I will absolutely work to stop that from happening. If that means subsidizing rural hospitals until we can figure out this healthcare mess, I will vote to do that. And I'm telling you, I don't want to do that. But I would do that rather than have a rural hospital close its doors. Okay, you can quote me on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that was one question that I was kind of thinking of as we were going along was who are the experts that you would reach out to? Like you said, your plan is to reach out to experts since you don't know all. Who are the experts that you would turn to for healthcare reform and healthcare solutions?
Well, one thing for sure, what I do is definitely go over and study Germany's thing. I've talked to doctors, and they say that Germany has a good healthcare system. They haven't really savaged the thing for eliminating expensive procedures and stuff like that. So if they've got a good health, I try to find an example of something that works. I'm not saying I would adopt the German system, but I certainly want to know what they're doing right, and what we could incorporate here. So And I do that for sure. There are very few examples of something that's actually worked, and Germany seems to be one. So that's, and I imagine, if you Phil, you go talk to the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm late for my 2:00 appointment.
Sorry, Mike. I didn't even notice. Sorry about that.
I know the time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. I think we got lots of great stuff, and if I think of anything else to follow up with, I'll be sure to send you.
Yeah, please call me back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But I appreciate you making time, and best of luck in the race.
Yep, thank you.
Of course.
Take care.